And we will have music, as I pointed out earlier.
Yes.
Next time, bought the wrong adapter.
What?
Where's my foot? I'm gonna shoot the other one.
We need a media team is what we need there, Tom.
I go kicking and screaming into the tech world. You know that.
No, that's fine. Well, I'm Melinda McKinsey.
And I'm Tom Wise.
You're going to be unpacking some shit with us this Monday after Easter. I'm sure we've got all kinds of crazy Easter stories to share.
This is a blue screen.
Okay.
You could tell, right?
Sure. Sure.
It is not.
So tell us about your Easter, Tom. How was it? What'd you do?
Daddy's busy weekend. Cup call on Saturday night, had the cup call with Adam Freedom. We brought that back as a winner.
Saturday night.
Sunday, I went.
Oh, look at you with all your phones going off.
Damn it. These more fake phone calls. Scam likely. It's for you.
It's probably for me.
Turn this damn thing off.
I'm getting a lot. Tell me if you've gotten this email. I've gotten at least a half a dozen emails saying, oh, your PayPal account, just click this link. It looks like you paid over $800. Let us know if you really paid $800. I mean, I click report spam, but really, do they ever really follow up on that stuff?
Those folks should be shot too.
They should all be shot, Tom, all of them.
So Sunday, I went rowing with Melissa.
Yeah, you did.
That was quite the adventure.
And so what did you learn from because it's like a everybody rows together kind of a scenario, right? It's a class.
It's a class, like a spin class or something. So it was a nice easy drive. It's like an hour or something down there. I'll tell you about my car troubles. It was crazy.
Row.
Yeah, but I get down there 15 minutes in advance and we all get set up. It's different because I use a water-based machine, which is usually like paddles in a little circle of water. It's crazy. And there's is chain driven.
Oh, is it harder? Is it just different?
I think it's a little bit different, and I'll be honest with you, I think mine is a little bit harder.
Okay.
Because I was able to go to a certain speed on their machines, of which I could not ever achieve on my machine.
Okay. Is it more fun to row with other people?
Oh yeah, it was like, and I'll tell you this, I was just telling Patrick, shit, I've been rowing for 2 months now. I started the end of January.
Wow.
And I probably rowed most every day. I think I took one day off a week.
Yeah.
And we're 20 minutes into the class. I was really nervous because I row hard for 10 minutes and then take it easy for 5. And that's what I call my day. Right.
Right.
But this was going to be a 45-minute class. I said, oh my God, I'm going to be gassed. 10 minutes into this class, I'm going to be gassed. And I'm going to be holding out for dear life the rest of the class.
What was the ratio of men versus women?
I think there's, let's call 15 people, 17 people in the class, 15.
Okay.
And I'd say there were maybe 4 guys.
Oh, okay.
But it's Sarasota. Melissa by far was the most attractive person in the room, and a lot of
when you say Sarasota, you meant because it's more senior driven?
Yes, yeah. Okay. The further south they get, the older they get.
I did not know that. At least I have something to look forward to.
Yeah, just keep on heading south. Then when you hit Miami and Croak, you just lead into the Gulf. Or the Atlantic Ocean, depends on which side you're on.
Do you ever want to live in Miami? Live there?
No, no. It's the weather doesn't suit me. I don't. It's too hot for me in Tampa, let alone too hot for me in Miami.
Yes, yeah. I'm a city person, but Miami, no. I've been there for work, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't feel the vibe here that I would want to spend very much time in Miami. It just doesn't do it for me.
It would be fun if you were in your 20s and 30s. I went down there when I was hosting at Home Shopping. As a matter of fact, I was the manager. We went down there to have a kind of remote something or other. It was a disaster. Those remotes never do anything. But we went down there for 2 days, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's good to have a plan. So how did you do in relation to the class?
So I was fine. So the class was like, I'm looking around and saying, these folks probably aren't in really great shape. They're just like they're just regular folks. It wasn't like in my head it was, this is an Olympic team. We're all going to be, they're going to be crushing me,
Of course.
because the
Yeah.
number scared me. The
Yeah.
number that Melissa showed me that she was able to do her pace was for a 500-meter row was 1 minute and 38 seconds. The best I've ever been possibly able to do on my machine is not even under 2 minutes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, I'm going to get crushed.
Were you thinking about the numbers on the whole drive there?
And I always concentrating on just, no, I was not
You think about numbers a lot.
watching the GPS. But it's fun. It was interesting to try out a different machine. Nice positive vibe. The teacher was great. It was a free class for me as I was her guest.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, win-win situation.
Well, that's
So on the ride home, I had the light go on in the car, like check. My car's got a zillion miles on it. Had the
Yeah.
light go on, check engine light go on.
uh-oh.
So I pulled over, I checked, and it says that I think everything's fine. Might have been whatever. Because I changed the oil. The one thing I do is change the oil regularly. And so I drive, and there's no incidents. Then I'm on the way back. Light goes on as I get on I-75.
Oh no. That's
yeah,
stressful.
light goes on, and it says engine power reduced. Check temperature. I'm going, the
What?
car is trying to tell you something, idiot.
Oh,
The car is trying to
no.
tell you, do not ignore this warning. So I pull off. There's a side off, and then there's this grass, which was like 50 yards of grass. So I was well into the whatever off.
Okay.
The short version of the story is I determined that I needed water in my radiator.
Oh, okay.
So
Did you have
I had a little water from the workout,
great?
let it get to as room temperature as I could, because you don't want to put cold water
Right.
in a hot engine. You'll make crack the block. At least that's what I've been told. So I put the little bit of water I've got in the engine, and I said, I just got to make it to the next whatever. So I make it to the next whatever. I pulled off. It takes not one, not two, but 3 gallons of antifreeze.
What?
The radiator was virtually dry.
Wow, that's scary.
And the only thing that saved me was the fact that I was nonstop 70 miles an hour from Pat's house to Sarasota. Had I been in some sort of traffic jam or had I sit there, the only thing cooling the engine was the air going by it.
Wow.
It was crazy. So,
I mean, you maintain your truck. How did it get to that point?
that's one of those things I don't look at a lot. I'm
Okay.
just assuming that because when I go to change the oil, they automatically, in theory, fill up your radiator with fluids. So we got the 12-point check. We're gonna check your tire gauge. We're gonna check your air pressure. Blah 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 blah. And one of those deals is they're gonna fill up, your reservoir, which is usually nothing.
Right.
Well, I've been going to the same guy for the last 6 years. Maybe he hasn't been checking.
Are you going to ask him next time you go to him? Because that's.
I'm living in a different area now.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad nothing fell apart. But speaking of excitement in Tampa Bay, how are you feeling about the issue happening in Manatee County with their water and all of the potential for disaster?
I happen to live with a hydrogeologist.
I know you do. And that was going to be my next question is what has Pat said about all this? Because certainly he's called his friends and they're all talking about the phosphates.
The guy that plays trumpet and bass guitar in the band is on this thing. He's
Okay.
involved.
Oh, all right. Well, that figures. Those are Pat's people. What's the true story then? Tell everybody what's going on with this situation. I wrote it down because I don't know, but it's leaking toxic wastewater, right?
Yes, and apparently they expect the thing to burst.
Yes, and they evacuated people.
So what they're going to do is they're just going to allow it to. They're going to control and leak it into the.
But if you leak it, isn't that bad stuff?
We're leaking it. We're going to leak it into a barge and send it up to New Jersey.
Well, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's about right.
And then we send it to Staten Island, so it's fine.
And then off to Haiti.
So So really, how
No,
does that work?
there's nothing to be done apparently, except for just letting it slowly leach out.
What about the people that were evacuated? Are they back home?
They are put up in a 5-star hotel for the
Yes,
next 6 months.
of course they are.
Room
Of
service, of course, whatever
course.
you need.
Yes.
I
No,
don't know.
that is horrifying because what does the team say? How did it get to this point? What caused this problem?
Everything goes back to Trump.
No, I'm serious though. Obviously, for it to get to this point, something went wrong.
I don't know. Maybe we should bring Pat in.
I want to know what Pat has to
I
say
don't
about it
know.
because
Yeah.
he has a theory on, this doesn't sound safe on any level, and it sounds like it because it's at this point where it was going to burst. Clearly, it's been happening for a minute, right?
You know what? Well, let's start looking at what's going on wrong in New York.
I think New York is fine. We're fine. We just legalized marijuana. What else do you want from us?
Wow, everybody's shocked. How do you feel about that?
Great. I think it's great. Now the problem is really doing the paperwork for the reality of it, right? Right now, what they're saying is if you can have less than 3 ounces in your home, which is a good amount of marijuana, and that you can't grow it yet in your home, you can smoke
All
it.
right. If you had 3 ounces of marijuana, how long would that last you?
That's a lot. I think it would last me like like a year, but then you can't, it needs to stay fresh. So yes, I would have to sell it to people or give it away. But the good news is people can now sit on their porches, sit on their stoops and smoke, which they've done since I've lived here for 8 or 9 years. But now it's legal. So I don't know if the thrill is gone now because, well, big deal. You can smoke your pot on the porch, but you can't like they don't have lounges yet. They're talking about creating lounges and going, so instead of a bar, you go to the lounge.
Well, I mean, is it legal to walk down the street now smoking pot?
You can smoke pot wherever you can smoke cigarettes
Really? So why have a lounge?
because it's a social, why have bars? Because it's a
Okay,
social.
because I can't drink in the sidewalk walking down the street.
If you're good, you can.
If you put it in a Coke can.
um, yeah. I know lots of people, they're very excited about it. I think it's super cool. I love the idea that they're going to expunge the records of people that have been arrested for.
I like that.
I think that's a very big deal. And so that's super important that that is happening. So I personally think it's a good move. I know there are plenty of people that don't, but I don't care what those people think.
So what's the argument against don't for don't?
So like, for example, in
If
my
we're on
neighborhood,
a debate team and you had to choose, you had to argue both sides. What's the argument for no, this is a bad idea?
how do we test people smoking pot? Like our kids are going to have access to it too. Does your surgeon smoke pot before he has surgery? How would you ever know? It's going to harm people because now that you've made it legal, everybody's going to use it and people are going to get themselves in dangerous situations and cause car accidents and hurt people. That's what the neighbors are saying.
I mean, I was telling Patrick today, I'm not necessarily a big fan of it.
Tell me why.
Well, I'm thinking that, anything that they make legal, the state kind of certifies as this is okay. So now, since we've lived through the transition, we realize that, you can't go through life high. But maybe in 7 years, everybody thinks like, oh, the state's certified it must be fine for kids or whatever. I think a 16-year-old, 14-year-old smoking pot is a very bad idea.
Some people are better when they're high. I mean, you can't go through life drunk. And I feel like alcohol causes so many more problems than marijuana does as far as taking people's lives and harming people and addiction.
I think they make people, particularly kids, lethargic.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it all comes down to your environment and how you're raised.
Exactly. It's going to be what's what,
I'm personally excited about it. They're definitely working into the legislation ways to so if you're a distributor, you cannot grow it. So they're going to keep all that separate so you can't,
monopolize it.
Yeah, exactly. So, which I like that. I think that's super smart. So yeah, I haven't sat on my porch. I should probably go sit on my porch and smoke. I haven't done that yet because it's not exciting anymore.
You're not doing it on the DL.
Anybody can do it. But
It's
you know what?
yeah.
You've been in New York. You smell it everywhere. People smoke pot here all the time. It is not an unusual smell.
What's your think about just the philosophy of of the government? Okay, now we're gonna have kind of our citizens are gonna be. Here's a way we can calm them down. Yeah, we're screwing them with taxes. Yeah, we're screwing them with rules. We're screwing them with parking. But we're gonna let them smoke pot so they can just be high all the time. So maybe it's better for us that we have a population that's kind of depressed or checked out.
I would not be the least bit surprised if that was part of the motivation here is to calm people down because I truly feel in my heart Cuomo would have never signed this act of legislation had he not been in so much trouble. He said no to it many, many times. Suddenly, he's got all this
Oh, he's a man of the people now.
now. Oh, he's Mr. Cool Guy. Look what he did. You know how people are. People are very forgiving over things like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was more of a government like, hey, man, let's just chill. I bet we're not going to have as many riots if everybody's high and everybody's,
Yeah,
so
let's have football 52 weeks a year so people can get their anger out, get high, watch football, be distracted, not worry about. Let's not think so much about the phosphate mines in Florida. Calm down.
right? I mean, does that really affect the whole world or is it just Florida? That's just a Florida problem.
The trouble is I had not really looked into the story outside of the 30 seconds that I saw it come across my plate where I said, "Oh my, that seems like an interesting situation." I'm going to ask Patrick about, it. And Pat didn't have an in-depth answer. He more or less said, "Yeah, they're handling it by allowing it to leach back into the system in a controlled fashion, and that his guy Gregory may be working on it." So that's all I really know about it. But it's like, there's always a price to pay for everything. You want this, that, and the other thing, and you're going to have this, that, and the other thing, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Nuclear waste.
yeah, I'm hoping that based on our history and things that have been happening around the world, I don't know, did you probably hear there were several earthquakes in LA this morning, early this morning?
They had to do with Shaquille O'Neal.
Lot of
No, I didn't.
No, but I'm saying there's a lot of things happening around the world that are showing that we've got to take better care of the planet. And of course, industry is important. And of course, all those things matter. But I do believe we've gone a little too far with big business, allowing them to get by with things they shouldn't be getting by with. Just like, let's talk about recycling.
Well, yeah,
Right?
I agree with you, but
Well, that's why we're in the position with the waste leaking because this is a toxic thing that a normal person would not be. If a normal person, one person had these kind of chemicals and they were bleeding out or whatever, they would go to prison, they would be held accountable. But because of the
Right.
system, they're like, well, we're going to bleed it out. And it's like, oh, bravo, big companies.
Did you ever see that? Did you ever see that meme or video a couple years ago? Some guy decided he's going to change what a lake, this polluted lake, he was going to flip it into a fresh lake.
No. What did
Well,
he
there's
do?
a guy. He's a guy in a rowboat. He's out in the middle of a green, shitty-looking lake,
Yeah.
and over the course of some time, he's putting some sort of something in a bucket. He's flipping it into the lake, whatever. And I said, Pat, don't we have a guy that could do something like that here with the phosphate? He goes, not that bucket guy in the lake, right? I go, yeah. Oh, that's all bullshit.
Patrick is so cynical.
He was, he was familiar with the lake guy.
I've heard plenty of stories about people, usually in other countries, that start planting trees in an area that never had trees. And I mean, listen, for all those naysayers that say it doesn't work, anything that makes things better is a good choice.
Amen.
Whether you're going to change the entire planet or not. I am worried about this leak. I mean, I called my sister right away and said, you know what? Don't drink any tap water. Just, pay attention. And she has tortoises. She uses her outside hose to fill the pond for her tortoises. And I said, really check because they'll die if it leaks into the Tampa Bay system. And Carol assured me, because I know nothing about this, that the water systems have alarms on them. So if anything changes, it lets them know. So she doesn't think it's going to affect Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this is south of Tampa.
Well, I realize it's in Manatee County, but I also feel like we all really are connected. Manatee's not that far.
Of course, I know, but
So I'm worried about it. But you heard nothing about the earthquakes in LA? It was kind of exciting.
I haven't been that tuned into the news.
Okay.
Was it bad?
Um, uh, no, but yes, like it was very deep. And so it's a different kind of an earthquake. It started at 4:15 in the morning, but of course, because it hit LA County, which is the bigger population, that's a concern. So it started around 4:15. And people that were actually awake, because there were a couple news, when early morning news was on, and it showed clips where they're like, did you guys that was an earthquake, you know what I mean, because they could feel it. But people that were awake said it was different than previous earthquakes, or normally it was just like a shake, and they said this was a low lingering rumble. And then so it's a little bit, it's deeper, which is not good, because it's moving some things that shouldn't be moving. Personally, I lived in LA for a while. I only was there during one earthquake. It was minor. But I'll tell you what, those aftershocks are terrifying, because you could be anywhere and the ground moves. And
Holy crap.
you feel crazy. It feels crazy. I think it's scary to live in California right now. I just think they've had too much of that stuff, and it's scary. But again, what can you do to stop an earthquake, right? I mean, you can't, and you can't run from it. So yeah, so I think it's super scary. I think there's a lot of stuff going on around the world. What's the name of the girl, Greta Thornburn, that does the climate change stuff?
Yeah.
So
Thornburg, I think.
Thornburg, she did a really funny meme. Did I tell you about this? Where they were talking about climate change and how it's actually affecting penis size. And so she posted that statistic up, and she said, well, I guess
Now
now
we got a problem. Well, why didn't we get this out earlier?
we got to handle this. All the men will be showing up to the climate change meetings from now on. But it was funny because she said, I guess we'll see everybody now at the next climate change meeting, because
Oh, Greta's working our tight five.
I like Greta, right? Greta knows what's up.
I heard it was plastics in the environment was affecting men's penis size and fertility.
Like, how do you mean plastics? Like,
Just apparently everybody's eating a credit card size of plastic every year.
okay. Yeah, we probably have. We probably have.
Along with spiders and roach droppings in our chocolate.
Well, I think we do a lot of things that are bad for us that we kind of forget, like certain microwaves aren't great for you, but we use microwaves, and plastics and microwaves aren't great for you. And I think if you think about someone using their microwave, let's say they warm up their meal every day with plastic, something bad will happen to them, because those chemicals from plastic in a microwave are bad, and they've been shown that they're bad, but you don't really hear PSAs about them all the time, do you? It's bad. We shouldn't be
No.
doing that. So
Well, do you know how they suspect the Roman Empire fell?
microwaves and plastic.
It was microwaves and plastic. Good morning, I'm microwaves and I'm plastic. No, they think that they were drinking everything from lead containers, and the lead was leaching. They were using lead bowls to make their food. They were drinking out of lead goblets. They were storing in lead this. Lead. Drives you crazy. I think that's then. Oh, the Mad Hatter was mercury. Are you familiar with that? You know how Mad as a Hatter and the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah.
Well, apparently part of the tanning or curing of leather, and I don't know, particularly for a hat, to make a hat, out of natural fur or something, they would use mercury in the process. Then you're wearing that hat and all that mercury seeping into your brain,
Oh,
and you go crazy. So mercury and lead.
I hadn't known that, but that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
that's why they say that's the state. That's what the phrase comes, I believe. Mad as a Hatter.
Wow. No, I didn't. I did not know
Or
that.
maybe because the process, he's breathing it in while he's making these hats.
No,
Mercury.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like with we're so used to convenience. We're so used to doing things that aren't necessarily great for us, but it's
Well,
like,
yeah, well, we've done it. We've already identified it. I mean, we used to have lead in our gasoline so it wouldn't ping, until somebody said, this lead is killing us. And then used to have plastics that, oh, you know what, this isn't good. So now they certified microwave certified. It's got a microwave symbol on it. And apparently that's better than the ones that didn't have the microwave symbol. Then we had asbestos in our, asbestos in our insulation and lead in our paint. And so we're trying to get away from that stuff. So you never know what you're doing today. Like
Right.
you're saying, microwaving plastic. I'm just having lunch.
Right.
Well, it's leaching and whatever.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I am worried about you guys there with the water because even though people might be poo-pooing it, I don't, it doesn't sound right. Like, you know?
I mean, this is the point where we hope the government is true and honest. Unlike a Flint water situation where they just go, it's shit water, but they're kind of brown people, so we don't really care.
And it's still bad. How many years later? No one has fixed that. No one has changed that.
Did you see where Joe Biden in this double $1 trillion, proposal for bridges and infrastructure proposes changing every lead pipe in the country out.
No,
Get rid of it.
no. I know that he's going to do windmills here off the shore in New York. I did see that. So
Now, I don't know what kind of, how many miles or feet or of lead pipes there are still in the country, which is kind of like, really, we're still drinking through lead pipes.
it's really
Which is,
scary.
I'm guessing any place that I live doesn't have that situation. Probably depressed areas that have lead pipes.
Well, sure, because they put less effort into it,
I know.
Really, really unfortunate.
We live up on a hill, and then when the shit hits the fan, it all goes down the valley and the low folks.
Did you hear about the stuff with your Facebook information being leaked?
So people are going to know what I'm up to outside of what I post every day.
I guess phone numbers and different things have been leaked, and I mean, I glanced at it and I thought, yeah, this has been happening for a long time. I'm not shocked by it, but apparently, like now they're having meetings about it and trying to figure out how to fix it, which I thought this happened a long time ago.
Yeah, we thought we gave that up a lot. Every time I hit, I accept. I accept. I want to play the game. I accept.
The fine print. Did you read? I did read over the weekend. People that donated to the Trump campaign did not read the fine print, and he had some clause in there. Did you read this, Tom?
I've picked up bits and pieces where he has the ability to just spend the money as he feels free, right, or something like that.
Not only that, he had a clause. If you didn't go down when you donated all the way down in the fine print and double click, you were giving regular donations and they never stopped.
No way.
They got over $2 billion. They've had to give back 122 million because people were fighting. And they said, this is what he does and all this stuff. And why aren't we hearing more about that? All these Trump people were tricked into continue. So if you gave a $5,000, guess what? Every month, $5,000, and you had to fight it. And a lot of people are just furious.
It's insane. So yeah, people say, "Oh, Trump's going to go bankrupt." He's got so many schemes and scams going. Please, all you'd have to do is send out a tweet. I need $100 from everybody, and you'd have $70 million or whatever.
I mean, I feel like he definitely has a core group of people that are very supportive of him. So who knows? I thought that was fascinating because I read the article and I thought, boy, whatever politician I was supporting, I would be very angry at something like that. And it would make me rethink other things too, because if you're willing to take advantage of the people that support you,
he doesn't care.
He doesn't care at all. So yeah, I thought that was stunning.
Yeah. The worst thing I ever did was I threw $5 at that guy that was going against in Kentucky. There was the Senate race in Kentucky against McConnell.
Oh yeah.
I donated $5
just
to say I can be part of the solution. And he lost by a zillion votes. But then I get on the regular texts and emails from the Democrats. They'd like another 5, please.
I know. Yeah, I will donate. I've definitely donated to Bernie and different things, but I ignore all the follow-ups because you're going to get them, and I don't feel guilty or swayed when I feel like I can do it. I can do it, but I'm not going to get pulled into that. Like I feel like we pay a lot of money for these people, and I don't think I should be solely responsible.
Absolutely.
So
there we go. Official Democratic H2. President Biden needs your blah blah blah. Let me show you the phone that you can't read. How's it? Look at this, Melinda.
That.
This is shocking.
So over the weekend, yes.
And then guess who I saw on Friday night?
I don't know.
I go to Side Splitters, get
Yes.
seats up front for the 10:15 show.
Yes.
Who comes out as a feature? It's Ron White.
Ron White's a big deal.
Yeah, probably top 10, probably could be top 5 touring comic in the
He
country.
is a money maker, Ron White. So what was he doing there? What in the world's going on?
He's working on his set. He's about to launch his national tour where it costs you $400 to sit in front.
Yes,
And
yes.
he's working. He said he wanted a middle, so he comes on, does 20 minutes. He was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. How exciting. I mean, did people know ahead of time he was going to be there?
The the 10:15 show is usually lightly attended on Fridays.
Oh,
So the owner of the company, he released the fact that Ron White was coming. He still couldn't fill up the place,
yeah.
but
I-
it's crazy. Reminds me, Patrick and I and my buddy Mike saw Jackie Mason 20 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
He was just coming off his Broadway tour, and he was coming up with another, hour show, and he was doing. I mean, this is maybe it's even longer than that. I might have been single, for God's sakes. This might
Okay.
have been 30 years ago
Yeah.
plus. I was reading a newspaper, and it said Jackie Mason, Tampa Improv. Jackie Mason can't be in the Tampa Improv. I went there. Place was half empty. There's like 50 people in the place. Jackie Mason walks out. What's going on?
Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting
Yeah,
though?
I mean, it was the height of his powers.
That's exciting. There's a new show on FX called Hysterical. And the reason I'm talking about is because I follow a lot of female comedians, and these female comedians put this show together called Hysterical about females in comedy. And it was just fascinating to watch because if you've ever participated, and I had a short stint in participating in that, but knowing so many other comedians and hearing kind of, how tough it is to do that and the lifestyle you have to live if you're a touring comic and stuff. And then a lot of the pushback that the females were getting, I really highly recommend. It's just called Hysterical. You can
Huh.
watch it on Hulu if you don't catch it on FX. I'm just saying. But FX is a regular, thing. But I do recommend. Do you follow many female comedians on social media or anything, Tom? That you
I
can.
don't follow hardly anybody. I think I've got 3 people I follow. You and 2 other people.
Well,
The Pope
okay.
and
We got
Uncle
to get you.
Joe.
We got to get you up on that. There are some really. I think you would really enjoy the type of humor. I mean, they talked about people that were big, like Amy Schumer, right? But then
Sure.
they talked about all levels of female comedians. It was just it, one girl that was in there was fairly new. I looked her up and started following her. She only has a couple thousand people following her. She's a fairly new comedian. How cool is it to be on a show about female comedians that are talking about people like Wanda Sykes and
Right.
Amy Schumer? So cool. And it really is one of those things where, like you were saying, if you just keep plugging, you just have to keep showing up, just keep showing up. And
So guess what?
what?
The owner of the club said Friday night after the Ron White show,
Yes.
he pulls me over. He goes, "Hey, when you coming back? We
Oh,
got a guest spot for you anytime you want on a
see,
Tuesday."
well,
That was
still,
nice.
how open are they now? What's the story?
They're full. I mean, I was there Friday. It was lightly attended, but I don't think he's holding back. He's asking people to wear masks. He's got the sign on the door. It's 50-50. It's a little bit of a shit show.
Gosh, I would think it would be hard to wear a mask at a comedy thing because you're laughing so much, right?
They're asking to wear a mask, like the rules. Our rules here: wear a mask till you get to your seat, then you can take your mask off. Like anybody,
How does
like what's happening here?
how does that make sense?
I mean, that's been the restaurant rules here for 3 months, 4 months. Go to
Yeah.
your seat, then take off your mask.
Yeah. Oh
I'm
well,
not I'm not eating inside.
I don't understand any of it. None of it makes sense. I mean, I looked at a thing over the weekend where they said numbers weren't necessarily going down in areas where they had mask mandates. There's got to be other criteria. And they're saying now shutting down didn't seem to really make that big of an impact, that it really wasn't the smart choice because there were other factors they should have considered as opposed to, oh, we're just shutting everything down. They're showing places like Sweden. Sweden's good to go. They've been good to go for a while. They handled it right away and they bounced right back. And then there are other places that had a lot of mandates, and like New York is struggling. We've had a lot of mandates. We're still struggling. So I don't know. It feels different because I watch all you guys in Florida and I see pictures over Easter. People are out and I'm like, I'm still in my house.
Yeah, people are out and about.
Still not going anywhere. So it's
It's
so weird.
it's a weird thing. But have you gotten the shot yet?
No, here's the problem with New York. I was just discussing this with someone this morning. There's, obviously we have over 8 million people here in New York. And so they started like everybody else did, like 75 and older, 70, 60. And now I think we're down to 18 and over right now.
You're
Okay.
qualified, barely.
I barely made it. I'm finally able to do it. The problem is anytime I go online, it's packed up. Everything is packed up. So when I go on and I see nothing, then I take a break because if it's packed up, I want the people that are afraid and have to go out in the world. I don't have to go out in the world right now.
Right.
So I'm going to let that happen. It sounds like towards the end of the month, it'll lighten up some more because everybody's more and more numbers are getting them every day. But I will tell you something fascinating about these shots. You got Johnson and Johnson, right?
Right.
It was one and done. And is AstraZeneca the one and done as well?
I don't know. Is it?
I think so, because I think is the Moderna 2.
Moderna's 2, Pfizer's 2.
Okay. So my sister who lives in Florida gives blood. So when she went to she's had both of her shots from Pfizer. And as we all know, you don't get to choose, you go, then they tell you this is what we have, right?
I did get to choose.
Except for you who gets to choose and everybody else doesn't. So she goes to donate blood and, they ask a lot of questions. She's a regular person who donates. And so they say, have you had the vaccine? Right? That's one of the new questions. And so the nurse says, okay, which vaccine did you have? And my sister says, does it matter? She goes, well, for right now, we're only letting people that have had the Pfizer donate blood. The others haven't been tested thoroughly, which makes me a little nervous. Does that mean Pfizer just had access to tests? Because clearly giving blood is very important.
Well, Pfizer also was the first to do, they were ahead of the curve. They were the first to be approved as well. So maybe they're 6 weeks ahead.
Right. Maybe that's what it is. But right now, if you want to donate blood, right now, only if you've gotten the Pfizer vaccine can you do that, which I thought was fascinating. Yeah. So good luck with that, J&J.
Let me also say that I don't know if they're doing this in New York. I have no idea. But in Tampa, they've got a variety of different places that are just come as you are, catch as catch can. Like at the dog track, they're doing 2,500 shots a day. And no appointments. Just show up, get your shot, move on.
Kind of the only thing that we have right now that's similar to that is in the neighborhood group, they'll say, hey, we just found out Walgreens is saying, they've got X amount of shots, everybody come on in. So there's definitely moments like that. But I will say, because we have so many people here, from what I'm reading, my neighborhood group, there's still so many people that need it ahead of me that really.
I get it. Well, that's nice of you to do that. I'm saying, when I went there, I was reading that the guys had 2,500 shots available. 1,700 people showed up yesterday. So they're not. Yes. So there's more capacity than there are people.
Yeah. So far here in New York, the last time I checked, they said there was one area like a Citibank or something had the shots, and they said like we have 1,700 shots, and then you clicked on it and it's like full. Because everybody's like yes, yes, yes. But then I learned today that someone said the way people are handling the system is they go and book appointments at several places. And I was like, oh, that is clever, but also fuck you guys for doing that because people like me feel like they can't go because all these ghost people have booked and they're never going to show up. So that's frustrating too. But
jamming the system.
So I think by the end of the month, for sure by May, it'll be easier here in New York.
Do you have any topics for today? We've been just rattling and prattling. Paula's the only one that cares about this because she's gardening now.
I want to talk to you about Dave Ramsey.
Oh, all right.
Do you know who Dave Ramsey is?
Yes, and I do have one topic.
I have topics. I always have topics.
I know. I never said you did that, bro. Don't ever correct me again on the podcast.
This is only like the 12th time I've done it. So, okay. For those of you that know about Dave Ramsey, he became very big in the Christian church world for doing money management, right? He was the big money manager guy and always talked about his faith. And so that was a big part of it. And I will say, if you're smart and you want to make money, sell something to a church, because these churches will have all the other churches talking about it too. And it's a great way to make money, which unfortunately seems to also be a very churchy thing to do.
Yeah, I'm not for that at all, but I am putting Jesus's picture on the carry cart
You know what? You will sell
with an American flag,
American
made for Americans.
You know what? I feel like now the American flag is a symbol for the QAnon people, and it's kind of a bummer because you see it and you go, "Wait, is that a Trumper thing? Is that a QAnon thing?" Which is unfortunate, but I feel like that's happening.
Yeah.
So there was an article. I think it just happened over the weekend. Dave Ramsey. Do you want to guess, Mr. Church, Mr. Ramsey, what is going on with him right now? Do you want to just take a stab?
I have no idea. I thought he was kind of under the radar, had a nice little radio show. I didn't realize that this religious bent.
It's a very hardcore. When I was a regular participant in my church there in Florida, it was required. You must take a Dave Ramsey. You must all follow the protocol of what Dave Ramsey has to say.
Yeah, because he's interested in tithing.
Yeah, he's interested in tithing. And then he tells you how to, don't go to Starbucks, take that $5 and, put it in this fund and that fund. And, I mean, good for people that want to be told what to do to live their money. But you know what? I'm not going to put all my money into some rickety old box. So if I'm still alive by the time I'm 80, I can roll around in all my money. That's not my kind of thinking. I might be broke by the time I'm 80, but I'm living a very full life right now. So
Thank you.
That's what I'm doing. Dave Ramsey had an employee that became pregnant. And so when she found out she was pregnant, she went to Human Resources and said, I want to find out about the Family Leave Act. How does this affect me? What are the resources? Well, come to find out, the lady that's pregnant is not married. So the company fired her because she had premarital sex. And Dave Ramsey does not believe in premarital sex. And if you work for Dave Ramsey and you have premarital sex, you will be fired. So now they're going to court, and Dave Ramsey's saying, I'm not firing you because you're pregnant. I'm firing you because you're a sinner who had sex before marriage.
Holy crap.
Holy crap.
Is the baby going to look like Dave Ramsey?
Here's the problem, Tom. What happened to WWJD? Why are all these so-called Christians so hardcore about, well, the Bible says, and so we will harm you to the point of proving what the Bible says?
That's insane.
And how devastating is it to be working for a church and looking up to someone going, this is exciting, I'm going to have a baby. And they're like, good luck with that baby, ma'am. You're out of here because you're a sinner for having sex.
Oh my God. What happened to the glass houses and the throwing the stones?
Well, that only works on one side and not the other. So fuck you, Dave Ramsey.
Wow. We just got a new title for the show. It took 37 minutes to get there.
This woman is in a partnership. She has a man who will be participating with this child. They just don't happen to be married. But now she's lost her health care because Dave Ramsey has decided it's more Christian to let her go and punish her for having sex. Because here's the irony. The guy that also works there has not been fired.
The father?
Thank you. That's correct. The father.
Wow. You're bearing the lead.
Well, I like the lead to pop up later after everybody thinks they know the answer. So, of course, it's all being filed in courts and lawyers and everything. But what a shame to feel like you can't even have health care now because someone is going to judge you based on what they think Christianity is and punish you.
Jesus, one of his best friends was a prostitute.
Well, apparently they're reading that differently, and that you must teach the prostitutes a lesson. Here's what Dave Ramsey said. He said, we have a moral code of conduct at our office, and I fire people if they have extramarital affairs. Now, this was not an extramarital affair. These are two single people, right?
Yeah.
This is his quote. The hilarious thing, which Dave, maybe don't use the word hilarious when you just fired a pregnant woman. The hilarious thing is that I put that up on Twitter about firing people for extramarital affairs, and people are like, "Oh, aren't you going to get sued? You can't discriminate against infidelity." And he says, "I have a right to tell my employees whatever I want to tell them. They freaking work for me. This is an employment at will state, which means I decide if I don't like people with green eyes. I don't have to hire you. I don't have to keep you anymore. There are no eye color discrimination laws. Sorry."
See, I disagree with him.
I think
You can hire and fire at will, but you're foolish to give a reason, because you can be sued on that reason. It's a discrimination. I'm over 65. I'm brown skinned. You can fire somebody, but you can't tell them why. I mean, it's kind of a crazy thing.
he is doing the typical thing that churchgoers do, which is being pious and high and mighty about the word of God. And because it's his business and his, he's going to decide.
I'm the decider.
That exactly. So I'll be excited to see him tumble and fall like all the other cruel people that are not actually living by what the Bible says, which is love one another as you would love yourself.
Amen.
Mr. Dave Ramsey is not doing that. So if you'd like to join my church, you can just follow us afterwards.
So what should it be the title of this episode? Should it be "Fuck You, Dave Ramsey," or "Love One Another"?
Well, I'd like to tie it in together as Mr. Dave Ramsey does. He doesn't live what he's preaching, right? So we need to come up with a clever way of saying, let's love one another, and P.S. fuck you, Dave Ramsey. And let's hashtag that. It might be a little wordy. It might be, but ludicrous. At the end of the day, these churches are based on the fact that people are counting on them to treat them in a loving way and to support them and help them.
It seems ridiculous. It's not a big thought experiment to see how poorly you're treating another human being.
It's so broken. How could you? This woman's having a baby, and I thought you were pro-life, but you're not. You're only pro-life when you.
So if I had the abortion in silence, I'd continue to be employed.
Yes, but you can't tell them, because then you would get fired.
Right. All right. Well, we're both on the same side of that issue.
Yes. So tell me what it was you wanted to talk about.
The numbers are in.
Okay.
The flu versus COVID. I'm going to be very brief about this.
Okay.
Flu kills 1.5 out of 10,000 people.
Okay.
So out of 10,000 people that get the flu, 1.5 will be dead.
Got it.
COVID, 1.8 out of every 100 people.
Oh.
That's an honest to God number.
Oh, shit.
1.8 out of every 100 people will be dead from the COVID. So let's take that. So that means 18 out of 1,000 and 180 out of 10,000.
Wow.
Versus 1.5 out of 10,000.
Yeah.
So I mean, people still on throwing around these numbers. Just like the flu. It's not like the flu, and it's almost 2 out of 100 people will be dead if they get the COVID.
Catchphrases seem to take on in our world, and somehow it's just like the flu was everywhere. It sounded good. People want to say it, and it wasn't based on anything true at all. It was just
we've looked at it for a year, and those are the numbers. They vary from state to state, but overall for the United States, it's a little higher than that in Florida. It's closer to just closer to 2.
And the problem here in New York is we're getting other variants, other strains. They're mutating and what have you. And tell me if this is true. So my understanding is once you get the vaccination, you can get it, but it'll just be mild, right? You won't necessarily die from it, which is the goal here.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'd like to wrap this with a good story. Want to hear a good story?
Yes.
I love human interest stories, and there was a story today about, let me see, I think it was on BBC News. Some men in New York, two gay men in New York,
Oh, I
uh,
like this joke.
in the year 2000. One of the guys was going up the stairs and he thought he saw a baby doll on the ground. And he's like, "That's weird." And he's like, "Eh." And he's like, "You know what? Let me just, what the heck? What? I feel bad if this kid dropped a doll." He went down, newborn baby with an umbilical cord and everything wrapped in a shirt. This was in 2000, before cell phones and such. So he said he was afraid to pick the baby up. He didn't want to hurt it. So he was yelling at people and no one wanted to be involved. Nobody wanted to be involved. So he got a quarter, went up to a payphone, called the police, went back downstairs, baby's still there. So he tells his partner shows up. He goes back up to use the phone. The partner shows up. The police take them, they get his information. So about a month or so later, someone reaches out. "Oh, we wanted to tell the story about how you saved the baby." He's like, "Oh, no, you sure? Absolutely." So he tells the story. And then he goes to court because something about child services, and they're talking, this is the year 2000, about how things happen with abandoned babies. And they asked if he'd tell his story. So it turns out the female judge that was in charge of this case was actually given a mandate. There were so many kids needing foster care that she was able to jump through some hoops and place babies quicker, right? Now, this guy didn't say he wanted to adopt the baby, anything. He just found the baby. So in court during this, she said, "Hey, I'd like to place this baby right away." And she asked Danny, it's Danny and Kevin, "Danny, do you think it'd be best for the baby to be placed right away?" "Oh, absolutely. Yes." "May we place the baby with you for foster care?" And he was like, "Oh, well, I guess so." I mean, I hadn't really, remember, two gay guys in 2000, they weren't getting a lot of support on families and they weren't even planning on having a family. So he says, "Okay." Ended up, of course, fell in love with the baby, loved the baby. These are white guys, baby's Hispanic, raised the kid, smart kid, good kid, goes off to college, great kid. When the kid is a teenager, gay marriage rights become available. And so the guys go, "Hey, how would you feel about, Dad and I getting married?" He goes, "You know what? I can't judges marry you." And they said, "Let's find the judge that brought us all together." They found the judge.
No way.
She married them. And so it was just a beautiful story about how, because just the right circumstances, she happened to get the mandate. This guy found the baby and she's like, "What do you think about fostering?" And she told them, she said, "I felt like if he took the baby home, he would have a home for life." And he did. And he's a great, successful kid. He's graduated college, or I'm sorry, he's still in college. And it just was such a lovely story about circumstances from him. He was running late to an appointment, thought he saw a baby doll, and now he has his own grown-up kid.
That's crazy. It's funny. When you're telling the story, I think that the baby is a female.
Yeah, yeah.
You're telling me it's a male.
It's a boy,
Ha.
baby boy.
I wonder if anybody else felt that way.
Hispanic boy. Yeah. So I just thought it was a lovely story.
I mean, if it was a sitcom, it was going to be a girl.
Girl babies always get rejected. We all know that.
I'm just saying, because I'm thinking of Modern Family with the two gay guys, Cam and his partner. They're raising a.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so and they haven't found the parents. They don't, no one ever came forward, they don't know, because obviously that was part of the journey too. In this story, they said, they were trying to help him find, but they abandoned him at the subway and no one claimed it. So,
Did you see that thing Laszlo posted about somebody who finds a DNA on a cigarette butt and was able to construct the person's face?
I loved that. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
That's nuts. Could you imagine if you could do something similar with a baby to determine who the DNA partners were?
Probably could at this point. I think we have so much technology at our fingertips. No, I love that. I thought that was, where was that at? Do you remember the exhibition?
I think it was in New York.
Oh, I should go check it out. Yeah.
Well,
No, I thought that was great. I noticed someone wrote underneath it, they thought it was creepy. It's like, I can think of a lot of things that are creepy, ma'am. That would not be one of them. I thought it was fantastic.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Well, that's much better than a sex tip. I like that. So we can end the story like what was his name? Good day.
Oh, I don't know. Who's Good Day?
Paul Harvey.
Oh, Paul Harvey.
Oh, Harvey, good day.
Yes.
And now you know the rest of the
The
story.
rest of this story. Yeah, it was
All right.
it's on BBC News. If anybody wants to take the time, it's a lovely article about fate and love and families. It was beautiful.
How nice. All right. Speaking of family, my daughter's just sending me a bunch of stuff on
I,
Facebook.
I can hear that. All
I hear
right.
it.
Well, I'm Melinda McKinsey.
I'm Tom Wise.
Thanks for unpacking some shit with us today on this Monday after Easter.
That's another one in the can. We'll see you on Wednesday. Do we have guests coming up?
On Friday,
Oh, how nice.
we have Christy talking about the
Oh,
orgasm.
that's right. Stay tuned.